You're watching As It Happens. We're in conversation with the Auditor-General, Mr. Kimi Makwetu. Just picking up, Auditor-General, on the last point, I just wanted to, just to conclude that part of our conversation. Are you aware of what I said earlier of councillors shouting orders or not holding officials accountable? Or is this simply like something that comes from officials who are trying to cover up for their own misdemeanors and inefficiencies and even corruption?
It's quite possible, Vuyo, that it is a combination of both, because if you look at the situation where you don't have these systems of accountability and the structures do not operate as they should, the one would possibly make an excuse against the other, because firstly, you also are dealing in environments where the actual document that substantiates the transaction sometimes is not there for you as an auditor to see what sort of transaction was entered into and what levels of delegation of authority were assigned to which persons. So that's why I'm saying that it could be a mix of both, because we do know of instances where people in councils would want to direct certain decisions, especially when it comes to awards of contracts. But in certain instances, also accounting officers would lament that fact as a reason why they acted the way they did, particularly where we shine the light on areas of irregular expenditure. So
well, it brings us
a combination of that.
Well, it brings us to a point that,
yes?
In fact, was raised yesterday when, for example, we were running a report about how the Social Development Department blew over R1 billion, and people, so there were some people who were at pains pointing out that no, irregular, unauthorized, it's important to know the distinction. But are these things that should be dismissed? That, oh no, it's just that someone doesn't have a receipt for it. So it's not, doesn't really mean that money was misappropriated.
Well, let's summarize a situation where we are sitting in one of these meetings, LTP meetings, where you look at the programs that the municipality wants to approve and it's interacting with the community. How are you as a councillor going to answer that question if somebody in that meeting of the community asks about the evidence for a particular road that needed to be repaired? Are we going to say it doesn't matter the fact that there was no invoice? Because an invoice is an independent document from a third party that confirms to those that are looking at this transaction independently as to its existence, as well as to its veracity. So those are the kind of issues that we look at in an audit. So I think it is important to note that those people sometimes, they are probably just trying to explain it away, if you like. You know, when somebody explains something away, they just want the question to go away, you know, without giving it any substantive response. So the point here is that if somebody is given care of public funds, one of the most important things to remember is that someone else with whom you have transacted must produce a document that provides evidence to the occurrence and the existence of that transaction. That's the only thing that we are requiring.
Still on the issue,
somebody can be able to know how much change you should have.
Okay, still on the issue of decisive leadership to address these accountability issues that you have raised. I want to move on from councillors and senior officials of municipalities to the provincial and national spheres of governance. What role, or what is the specific role of your provincial executive in ensuring that municipalities do what they are supposed to do and they are accountable for the monies given to them?
Well, Vuyo, they matter a great deal if you think about it in the context of the cooperative governance framework. But the reality is that those people in provinces and nationally do not wake up every day and go to a municipality in the name of going to work. The ones who do are the ones that I made mention of. When the chief financial officer leaves his or her home as well as the municipal manager, as well as all other senior managers who are responsible for overseeing implementation of programs. They are going to work. They are the primary line of defense when it comes to managing these public funds. Those ones who are in provincial offices as well as nationally will do what the law requires them to do to support as well as to provide assistance in areas where they are required to. They do not wake up every day and go to a municipality. And if you think about all 257 of them, they are people whose main preoccupation every day, including the employees that they employ, is to go to that municipality to make sure things are done right. In the absence of that, those others who are in provinces, I don't think they have adequate powers to change that situation, because they will always come when they are called up to come.
Well, parliamentarians spoke today about the legislation that they are piloting through Parliament, which they say is now almost at its final stages. What is your understanding of what that law is going to help you do, given your complaints throughout the years of no consequences for wrongdoers?
If you cast your mind back to 2016, when we released the audit outcomes of that year, one of the things that was shared with the media at the time by the chair of our committee on the Auditor-General in Parliament, Mr. Vincent Smith, was that him and the committee were going to take forward the issue of trying to strengthen the capacity of the audit office to do something about these issues that they are reporting on. Because that audit outcome in that year reflected extensively on the extent to which there was possible abuse, particularly in areas of supply chain. But the limitation of an audit, for what an audit is an instrument to verify, confirm, and agree certain things that have been identified by the auditor, meaning that you do it on a sample of the total population. You don't look at everything that has happened. However, the stuff that you come across is normally indicative of other things that are similarly being handled in an environment where there's no proper control. So what we are saying, therefore, in terms of these powers is going to enable the Auditor General, once they identify, for example, an item of irregular expenditure, to take that matter to those agencies that are entrusted with the responsibility to investigate matters of financial abuse. Upon the report that will come from them as a confirmation of exactly what it is that is behind that irregular expenditure, the audit office will also be given the power to effect a certificate that will raise a debt in the name of that particular individual cited in that investigation report. In our view, therefore, these powers are one of the additional arsenals in the many that ought to be developed to try and narrow the space for people to abuse the financial resources under their care.
Auditor General, Mr. Kimi Makwetu, thank you very much for talking to us this evening.